Welcome back to Dad Space. It's 2025. And if you're like, wow, it's a new year already, and you're thinking, am I in the right spot? Yeah, you are. If you push play on Dad Space, you are in the right spot. And I just want to say welcome to 2025. Glad to have you here. We're going to be talking about some stuff today about how you as a dad can get over your overwhelm in life. Because I think we're all overwhelmed quite often as we go through life. Today, talking about overwhelm, I'm recording this in front of my best friends on Meetup. And we have a podcast for Meetup where we get together and you get to meet some of the nicest people in the world. But we get together and I'm doing this in front of them, so they're watching. And they're all kind of either nodding or disapproving. Most of them are nodding. But welcome to Dad Space. Glad everybody here. And again, welcome to 2025. It's amazing. So just some updates for you from the show. 2024 is in the can. We're done. We've had some amazing people on the show. I'd love for you to go back and listen to some of the amazing guests. We have some resources for you. We did the November thing. November? Yeah, it's November in November, where we did 30 episodes in 30 days. There's a lot of stuff to listen to here on Dad Space, and I'm so glad that you're here. And today, we are going to talk about how to thrive amid overwhelm by doing what you can with what you have. Here's the thing. This quote came to me while I was at work. Somebody was talking about this in a book or something, so I wrote it down because I wanted to talk to you about it. And again, thank you for being here. The quote is from Theodore Roosevelt, and the quote simply says, "Do what you can with what you have where you are." Do what you can with what you have where you are. Now, why is this important? Well, there's three main components to this quote, and I really wanted to put it in front of you as a challenge for you in 2025 to be okay with just being okay with where you are as a dad, as a man, with your family, with your partner, with your children. We're all at different stages here on Dad Space. I'm an empty nester with 3 adult children out of the house, myself and my wife, and a newly adopted dog. Life is different than it was when our kids were little. And you're listening today, you might be just finding out that you're going to become a dad in 2025. You have no idea what you're doing. You're just completely overwhelmed. And maybe, as some people will say, you're struggling with imposter syndrome. Like, who am I to be a dad? Like, how come this landed for me that I'm going to actually be a dad this year? I don't know anything, and I'm looking forward to meeting other dads. That's why we do Dad Space. That's why we're here on a regular basis, to help you as a new dad, as a seasoned dad, to share and be a part of each other's lives and community. And that's what it's all about here at Dad Space, dadspace.ca if you're interested. So Theodore Roosevelt wrote, do what you can with what you have where you are. So let's break this down into 3 parts, because I want to kind of share with you some thoughts around this and give you my insights as we break this quote down into 3 chunks. You ready? Here we go. Okay, so as we look at this quote and we break it down into 3 parts, the first part, do what you can. Now, as a dad, we are always trying to do our best. We're trying to do the most possible for our family. And sometimes, I know for myself, I feel like I don't really meet up to my own expectations. I feel like I need to do more, and I always want to do more. And I find it drains me. I find that I don't get the reward for my efforts as I put myself out there. And as I really try to do everything possible. And it leads to exhaustion. It leads to frustration. It leads to feeling like you're not good enough. We talk about this again. It's imposter syndrome. It's the fact that, who am I? Like, someone else could do this better than I could. And for some reason, it's me. I'm leading this family in this way. I'm helping my kids and my wife, my partner. But I just feel so overwhelmed. So your kids, I want you to understand something, that in 2025, as you live out your dad's story this year, your kids and your family, they value your presence, not your presence under the tree, your birthday presence, your presence, you being present in the moment. They value your presence and your effort more than your perfection. And I think as a dad, as a young dad, I was so focused on how I could be the perfect dad. The one in all the movies, and they celebrate, and Dad's Father's Day, all that. You want to be the perfect dad. But you can't be the perfect dad because you're not a perfect person. So it's impossible to live up to the standard. So instead of trying to live up to a standard of perfection, what if you just lived up to a standard of being present this year? Your present, your gift to your family this year is just you being there. We chase our jobs, we chase promotions, we chase money, we chase recognition in 2025, and at the sacrifice of our family. I can tell you, as an empty nest dad, with no kids under my house, under my roof anymore, everyone's left my house, I would give everything back to have everyone under the roof again and have that feeling of going to bed at night, locking the front door, and everyone's sleeping, they're all in their beds, all good, everything's good, and going to bed and that satisfaction of having everyone under one roof. I don't have that anymore because my kids are gone. They're all doing their thing. So I don't know what they're doing and where they are, and I'm hoping they're good, but they're living their dream and they're living their thing, which is great. That's the point of all this, is they will leave someday. But I would give up everything just to have that moment again of having that interaction with my kids and being present with them. Think of Christmas morning. If you celebrate Christmas and holidays or a birthday party or whatever, there's gifts. And when my kids were little, they would dive in on the Christmas gifts. We had a Santa hat. It's here somewhere. And the kid, whoever's wearing the Santa hat was the one to distribute the presents. We'd have to all sit around and that person would have the hat on and they would hand out a bunch of gifts. Then we'd open them and then somebody else wears a hat. That's how we did Christmas in our home. And Christmas would be like this flurry of paper flying everywhere and blows and then it'd be all over. And it'd be this big letdown of like, wow, well, that's it. And I kind of feel like that's life as a dad. You have this flurry of activity and things are flying all over the place. And then it just, poof, it's gone. And you're like, wait a minute. All of that fun that we had when the kids were little, it's over. And they're on to a new part. And I got to find a new identity as a dad. So for me, I'm telling you, is just do what you can. Just what you can. Like these unrealistic expectations that you might have as a dad, they can lead to frustration again. They can lead to a lot of beating yourself up that you're not doing exactly what you wanted to do in the moment. You're not enough. Just do what you can. That's the first part of this quote from Theodore Roosevelt. Do what you can with what you have where you are. So Theodore Roosevelt is encouraging us to be okay with what you have. Now, we're always in this thing in life where we're trying to go for the next thing. You get a car, and then you see another car, and you're like, oh, I kind of like that car. And then you get a house, and you're like, oh, I would like this, and this to add to my house or make it bigger or better. We're always in this process of finding the next thing. And I don't think we ever really settle in on what we have or recognize how important what we have is to us and to our family. We always want to provide. We want to give our kids and our partner and our home the best of the best. And I think that the one things that we have is we always think about what we have as possessions. But what we have is more than that. It's actually who we are and the fact that we have a family. I think that's something that we really need to focus in 2025. We run on limited time. We run on limited resources. We run on limited energy. We can't do it all, and we can't do it all the time. We need to make the most of what we have at hand in the moment right now. And in 2025, that's my hope for you as a dad, is that you're going to leverage these opportunities to focus in on what you have in the moment instead of longing for what you don't have. I'm a podcaster, and as a podcaster, I'm longing for more people to fall in love with Dad Space. Why? Because I want to be super famous? No. Because I want more dads to be reached by this so they don't feel like they're doing life alone. So the more people who listen to this show, the more dads we can help. And that's the whole point of this. That's why we do Dad Space. So I am always looking forward to growing my show. I'm always looking for more. And how can we make this better? And I am not satisfied in the moment for Dad Space with what I have as far as the community. I want it to be bigger so we can help more people. So that's one side of it. But I think this also plays out in what we do day to day, that we always want to focus on the things that we don't have. I'm talking at an upcoming thing for a podcaster meetup where I'm going to be speaking about the fact that when we podcast, We seem to talk over the heads of the people that are there, to the empty chairs in the room, because we want more people to hear the message. And we look over the people who show up in life because we're always looking at the people who didn't. And we fixate on the fact that there's these empty chairs, meaning I'm not doing as best as I could. I think we need to focus on the people who are in our lives and give them our full attention. So to Theodore Roosevelt's quote, do what you can with what you have. What do you have in this moment? And focus on that before you start focusing on what you don't have. And stop looking over the heads of your family, looking over to what you could have in life. I think we really need to focus on what we do have. So that's part 2 of this. Focus on what you have today going into 2025 so that you know where you're heading this year with your family. That's number 2. Now number 3. The last part of this quote from Theodore Roosevelt, do what you can with what you have where you are. The where you are part is another piece I don't think that we really embrace that well as dads, and I think we could do more of this. We need to embrace the fact that we only know what we know. Think about your dad, your dad's dad, your dad's 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 dad. They only knew what they knew when they were in the role of being a dad. They didn't have the ability to see into the future. They didn't have the tools that we have today. They didn't have the resources we have today. They did the best they had with what they had. Whether or not they did it well or they did it terribly, they did what they had with what they had. And I just think it's not fair to compare our current situation to the people behind us, or for our kids to look at us and go, well, you did your best, but I'm going to do it better than you did when I have my family. I hope that they do. I hope that there's a progression in that. We need to embrace the fact that we only have this much knowledge. We only have this much that we've learned, that we've grown through. And for most of us, this is the first time we've ever been a dad. It doesn't come with instructions. So anytime that we can have something that helps us grow in community, I think that gives us more of a resource that we can draw from that can make us better and more impactful as a dad. So if you haven't been part of a community in the past, then seek one out. Find a men's group, find something local, find something online, and put yourself out there. It's going to be something that's hard to do for a lot of us. But in the process of doing that, you're going to connect with people that are going to change your world. And again, that's why, going back to when we did the intro to this podcast, we're recording this in front of a meetup group on a Saturday morning with a bunch of podcast meetup friends of mine. And that group makes me better. That group helps me to be accountable, show up, be a part of community, and learn from others. Where I would normally, by default, being more of an introvert, I would normally just kind of be on my own and figure it out by myself. But I get to go in there and listen to other people and go, well, they're doing really well in this where I'm struggling. So I'm just going to sit back and listen, make notes, and maybe connect with that person after the fact and go, can you talk to me more about how you did that? Because that's exactly where I am. So if you're not in community as a dad, then please find a community. If it's not dad space, then please reach out. I can point you to someone else. But you need to be in community in 2025. I think it's going to make you more effective, and you're going to find that you're not so all alone as a dad. Embrace your present reality. Embrace where you are right now. Don't be worried about what you don't know, but do with what you have and be okay with that. And don't be so worried about what you don't know. Work within your own current environment, all of the limitations that you have as a dad, and allow these things to naturally develop over time. My big wish for you in 2025 is that you are on a process of growth, that you are working towards something. You're not letting life happen to you. You're chasing after the thing you want in 2025. And what is that thing? If you've come into January 2025 and you have no clue what this year is going to bring you, then you're kind of aimless. You have no point. You have no reference. You have no target. So my challenge for you, if you want to talk to somebody about this, you can reach out to me through dadspace.ca. There's a voicemail, there's email. You can get in my calendar. We can talk. I don't have anything to sell you. I just want to be there for you. But we can kind of talk through this upcoming year and give you maybe some guidelines, some guardrails on where you're headed. and help you identify that goal for yourself into the future. And that's what I'd love to do with you over dadspace.ca. We need to do what we can with what we have and where we are. That's our goal for 2025. And I'm hoping that part of this is going to resonate with you. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. How are you doing what you can in 2025? How are you doing it with what you have? And how are you doing it where you are? If you reach out to me at dadspace.ca, I'd love to connect with you. I'd love to hear your story as a dad. And in 2025, I'd like to get more dads on the podcast, because the more people that we have on the show, the more voices we have on the show, the more people we can help. So if that's you, you're interested, you're like, Dave, I've never been a guest on a podcast. Great. That's awesome. Then you can be on this for the first time. And let's just have a conversation and help a dad. And if you have resources to help a dad, come on the show. I'd love to connect with you as well. But I just wanted to say to you, as we enter 2025, thank you for pressing play on this episode. If this is your first time here, I just want you to know you're among friends. We don't sell anything on this show. We're here for you. And I'd love to hear from you. So if you're like, I don't really know about this Dave guy. I don't really know if he's real or not. I'm a real guy. I would really like to talk to you. And this whole podcast is built for you. It's Dad Space. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of the show. And thank you for listening. Thank you for pressing play. And I hope you come back and listen to the past episodes. And as we do 2025, we can do it together. Thank you for being part of the podcast. Hey, thanks for listening to Dad Space. Thanks for hanging out to the end of the podcast. That's a great sign to wherever you're listening to this podcast, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, fill in the blank, that this was a good podcast to send people to. So simply by listening to this point of the podcast, you're helping the show grow. So good on you. Thanks for helping us grow Dad Space. If you want to help us fill our cups over at Dad Space, head over to dadspace.ca. Dadspace.ca, simple website, right? Dadspace.ca. You can fill up our coffee cup, which helps us then to keep moving forward with the podcast, and use our Buy Me a Coffee link over at dadspace.ca. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the show. Thank you for coming back. And thank you for sharing, because the more dads we can help, the better. We're all here to help each other grow in community. That's what it's all about. And without you, podcast is pointless. There's no reason to do any of this. So you being here means everything. See you at dadspace.ca. Take care.